Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, November 18th, and we're in for an exciting week this week with NVDA results coming out Wednesday after market close. You can see from the futures in the Bloomberg app today that two of the three U.S. indices, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, are both in the green. Really just slightly, not a huge amount. And the Dow Jones is down slightly. Again, not a huge amount going into the start. We're still an hour, almost 2 hours out before the start of trading today. But if we flip over to the Yahoo Finance app and take a look across the top, you can see here that crude oil futures for December 24th are positive today. So they're up about 0.5%. In that mid 67 range. So we're hoping to see that climb up to the mid 70 range by the middle of January. And heading into the handoff to the U.S. administration, moving from Biden and the Democrats over to Trump and the Republicans. We can also see here the VIX, it jumped a little bit on Friday with the markets correcting and pulling back a little. It was up. It was down as low as the 14s, and it's now up in the mid 16s. So percentage-wise, it was a significant jump, but it's still in a very acceptable range there and likely to probably come down today. We saw a lot of pullback on Friday. If you take a look at Costco to start, they dropped almost $17 down into the low 900s. It looks like it's going to be up in it is up in the pre-market. It looks like it's going to be up at the open. Lulu fell $10. It looks like it's going to be up slightly at the open as well. So a lot of stocks making a bit of a comeback, but not all of them. Scrolling down through to oil, you can see that with crude up, it's mostly green on the screen for oil stocks. And again, I do think that now is a good time to be taking a small position, at least, if not a larger position, in some of these oil names, because with the change in the administration in the White House, I think we're going to see a boost to oil stocks and oil production in the U.S. in general. So I think it bodes well for these stocks. And with crude really near all-time lows for the year, I think it also has room to move upwards at the same time. You can see as we move into technology, NVDA, the Granite Shares ETF, was down Friday. It's down today, so NVIDIA is likely going to be off for the open of the market as well, based upon that. Micron is up slightly. CrowdStrike is making a bit of a comeback from its pullback on Friday. Palantir just continues to do well. So here it's up. It was up almost $7 on Friday, and it looks like it's up in the pre-market again now. Apple's just hovering in that mid 220 range, and then scrolling down, Salesforce CRM was off on Friday. It looks like it's going to be coming back. Salesforce is going to be reporting December 3rd. So we're a couple weeks out from Salesforce reporting there, but that I think will be a positive report. It's done pretty well in the last month or so, climbing into the 300s. If you take a look at the 1 month here, you were down in the 280s a month ago, and now you're up into as high as almost the 350s, but you're now down into the 325s. So it's had a nice 12% lift in the last month. I think this is going to continue to move upwards and probably even break through that 347 top that we saw recently. We've got Net. This is a stock that went to $96, $97 last week. If you just look at the 5-day, was up almost $99 there. You've got to take your profits on these things. They don't stay up. They don't go up and continue to go up day after day. So take your profits. If you did that on that Wednesday, you could have bought back in on the Thursday at a discounted price of almost $92. And then if you had a weighted there, you could have been where it is today in the $88, $89 range. So do take your profits when they're there, and just realize that stocks are a bit of a roller coaster. When they spike up significantly, they typically pull back at some point, and that presents an opportunity to buy and catch that wave or ride up again. We look at ARM. ARM was off on Friday, and it's off again pre-market. So that's telling me that the semiconductors might be pulling back a little bit, although AMD is up this morning. If we take a look down Lam Research, it was down significantly, almost 5% on Friday. So that's an attractive buy-in point there. It's up 33 cents in the pre-market. Tesla is this is an interesting one. There's now talk that the Trump administration is going to ease regulations around self-driving, and that's sending Tesla stock up significantly. Although it was up on Friday, it was a pretty volatile week for Tesla, but overall a very good week for Tesla. The one that pulled back huge was Meta, and I love Meta at the 550 range. So I'm definitely going to be looking to pick up some Meta today. The Chinese stocks, BABA's not up significantly, but Baidu announces this week. That's the big search engine in China, competing with Google in North America and I guess worldwide, with the exception of China. So we'll see what Baidu comes out with. BABA and the Chinese tech stocks in general have gotten a bit of a lift today based on some guidance around or from the Chinese government and authorities that is beneficial to tech companies and Chinese companies in general. There's also further talk of further stimulus, and that stimulus starting to take effect in China. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But BABA had a decent quarter, and I think that at $88, $89, it's probably a pretty decent value play right now from a tech perspective. I mean, if you look at the price to earnings at 23 times, it's definitely on the lower side. And although they missed on revenue, they hit on earnings and exceeded on earnings. A lot of that is because they've been spending billions. I think 50 billion was what they announced last year in terms of share buybacks. So that's certainly helping there, and they're leveraging their cash that way. You can see NVDA here is off almost $3.50 in the pre-market. So this is interesting. We're 2 days out from earnings, and this is looking like it's going to be opening up down in the 138 range. I have to keep an eye on this. I think it's pulling back slightly, but if it does that, I think it's likely to pop based on earnings coming out Wednesday afternoon. Obviously, assuming those earnings are good, but I'm pretty confident that the earnings are going to be good. And then it becomes about the future forecast and what they're seeing with those Blackwell chips and the demand for those. And if the earnings are good with NVIDIA, I think the other one that'll get a lift is TSM. And I loved TSM in the 190s. Obviously, I love it even more in the 183s. I bought in, and I'm in a loss position right now in TSM. I bought in the high 189s and low 190s last week before Friday when everything kind of turned to the negative. But I do expect this stock by probably within 2 weeks. By mid-December at the latest, this should be a $205 stock, and it could get there Thursday morning when the market's open based on what NVIDIA does. I mean, TSM is a huge player in the NVIDIA space and in the production of chips. So I think that if we see NVIDIA doing well, and we already had great results from TSM in the last quarter, they don't announce again until January. But even if you had to hold it until mid-January, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with that whatsoever. We're also hearing this week from the likes of retailers like Walmart and Target, so we'll be keeping an eye out for those. I kind of jumped past that in the retail section earlier this morning, but wanted to mention that. And then Google. Google was off $3.50 on Friday. I love Google in the low 170s. I mean, this is a stock that had phenomenal earnings and jumped up into the mid 183, mid 180 range, and it has now fallen back to basically its pre-earnings price, which to me means that it's likely going to turn at some point and it's going to get back up above that 183 mark. And again, I expect that to be before the middle of next week, especially if we see good results coming out of NVIDIA, which again, I do expect to happen. We saw a big pullback in Adobe on Friday. We saw a pullback in general, but it was down 5%. Looks like it's up 0.5% now in the pre-market. They don't announce until December 11th, but I do expect that they're going to have some good earnings, and their AI story is starting to develop and be better communicated out to the analyst sector or the analysts that take a look at that company. And I think that's going to bode well for Adobe going forward. And then finally today in finance and down in the finance stocks, SoFi continues to be a bit of a rocket ship upwards. This has been a phenomenal stock. We were recommending this a couple months ago when it was in the high $5 range. It's now almost $14. Looks like it's going to be up this morning when the market opens. We've got JP Morgan up at 245. I think it's a little rich there, so staying away from that. Goldman up at 594, call it 593. Looks like it's going to open off a little bit today. If Goldman dropped into the 580s, I definitely look at picking some of that up. Morgan Stanley was a $100 stock, let's have a look. I think it was about a month ago. Yeah, it was down in the 115s there. It was a $100 stock back in the September timeframe, and it is now $134. So that's a huge increase. 34% in just 6 months. So I do expect there could be some pullback here, but we're hearing a lot about huge bonuses for bankers this year and the anticipation of a pickup in M&A with the change in the administration coming in the U.S. government. So there's a lot of things setting up to play out to be very positive in the finance sector. And so that's probably why we're seeing some of these prices as elevated as they are. That means they have to materialize into the actual earnings and revenue and future forecasts that these are based on. So we'll have to wait and see how those come out. We'll see from the big financials in early January what has transpired in the last quarter of 2024, and that will really dictate where those prices move. But I do believe outside of the big players, SoFi is still a super strong bet as it continues to gain momentum and market share in the spaces in which it plays. So that's where we are today on November 18th. Good luck with your trades. And if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button.